Welcome to Tabo Eminent Channel. Ancient civilizations built megalithic structures, massive stone monuments such as Stonehenge, the Egyptian pyramids, and the statues of Easter Island, for a combination of religious, astronomical, social, and political reasons. These monuments reflected not only technical prowess but also deep spiritual and societal motivations. Here's a breakdown of the main reasons why they were built. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel. Long before the rise of written history, ancient peoples across the world raised monumental stones into the sky, massive slabs of granite and limestone that defied imagination. These megalithic structures, found on every continent, were not just feats of engineering, they were expressions of humanity's deepest questions about life, death, and the cosmos. Each stone placed with effort and purpose told a story of belief, community, and the yearning to connect with something greater than oneself. In the green plains of southern England, for example, early Britons gathered thousands of years ago to erect Stonehenge, a ring of towering stones aligned with the rising and setting of the sun during the solstices. To the people who built it, the sun was life itself. Its journey across the sky marked the seasons, guided planting and harvest, and perhaps symbolized the cycle of birth and rebirth. Standing in the middle of that ancient circle at dawn, one can imagine the echo of chants, the flicker of fires, and the shared awe of people who felt they had built a bridge between the heavens and the earth. Far to the east, on the windswept plains of Anatolia, another ancient people built Göbekli Tepe, a sanctuary older than Stonehenge by thousands of years. Its massive T-shaped pillars, carved with mysterious animals, were assembled long before metal tools or farming existed. This site suggests that humanity's first monumental architecture may have been born not out of the need for shelter or defense, but from a collective spiritual impulse, a desire to gather, worship, and make sense of the unseen forces that govern their world. Göbekli Tepe was not a village, it was a temple, a gathering place that united scattered tribes through ritual and myth. Across the seas in Egypt, massive pyramids rose from the desert sands, their smooth limestone faces reflecting the burning sun. To the ancient Egyptians, the pharaoh was more than a king, he was a god incarnate, and his pyramid was both a tomb and a stairway to the afterlife. Building such vast monuments required thousands of workers, organized into teams that toiled for years under royal command. Even on distant Easter Island, in the vast emptiness of the Pacific, the Polynesian settlers carved enormous stone statues known as moai. Each one represented a revered ancestor, their silent faces turned inland, watching over the living. Moving these statues across miles of rugged terrain demanded not only ingenuity but also faith. The act itself may have been sacred, a physical expression of their connection to their ancestors and the land. Over time, the islanders' devotion to these megaliths became both their cultural identity and, tragically, a source of their decline as resources were depleted in the process of building and transporting them. In the mists of prehistory, when words were carved in stone rather than written on paper, humankind began to shape the world in monumental ways. Long before the first cities or empires, ancient people gathered under open skies to move stones larger than houses, stones that would outlast their builders by millennia. From the windswept moors of Britain to the deserts of Egypt, from the green valleys of South America to the islands of the Pacific, these megalithic structures rose as symbols of faith, power, and wonder. They were not just monuments, they were the first great statements of human imagination. Thousands of years ago, on the Salisbury Plain of England, tribes of early Britons worked together to build what we now call Stonehenge. With only ropes, wooden sleds, and sheer determination, they dragged stones weighing up to 50 tons across miles of land. As the sun rose on the summer solstice, its first golden rays passed perfectly between the stones, illuminating the heart of the circle. To those ancient builders, this was not coincidence, it was divine alignment. The monument became a temple of light and shadow, a place where earth met sky, and where the living honored both gods and ancestors. Even today, As the sun rises over those ancient stones, it feels as though time itself pauses to pay respect. Far away in what is now Turkey, the people of Göbekli Tepe were building something even older, perhaps the world's first temple, over 11,000 years ago. The site was filled with towering stone pillars carved with lions, snakes, and vultures, each one a guardian of sacred knowledge. These early hunters and gatherers gathered there not for survival, but for worship. It was a place where stories became rituals, and where humanity first began to ask questions about the mysteries of life and death. When their ceremonies ended, the builders buried the entire complex under tons of earth, as if to protect it, or perhaps to return it to the gods from whom it had been borrowed. In the vast deserts of Egypt, the rising sun cast long shadows across the sand as the first great pyramids took shape. The pyramids of Giza were not only tombs for kings, they were promises of immortality. Each block, perfectly placed, reflected the pharaoh's divine connection to the heavens. Workers, craftsmen, and priests labored together for decades to build these mountains of stone, guided by the stars and their unshakable belief in the afterlife. To them, the pyramid was a ladder to eternity, a way for their god-king to ascend to the realm of the sun god Ra. Across the ocean, in the fertile Andes of Peru, the Inca and their ancestors carved massive stones that fit together so perfectly no blade of grass could pass between them. At Machu Picchu, perched among clouds and mountains, they built temples aligned to the solstices, where the sun would shine through narrow windows at precise moments of the year. To them, the mountains themselves were sacred beings, their ancestors watching over them from the peaks. The city was both a royal retreat and a spiritual observatory, reminding all who lived there that nature, the cosmos, and humanity were one continuous thread. Across continents and centuries, the impulse was the same. The people who built these megalithic wonders were separated by oceans, yet connected by a shared yearning to reach beyond the ordinary. Whether to honor gods, ancestors, or the rhythms of the heavens, they transformed stone into meaning. These structures remind us that even in the dawn of civilization, humanity's heart beat with creativity, unity, and awe. They stand today as whispers from the past, telling us that before there were kingdoms or machines, there was wonder, and the will to carve that wonder into the earth itself. Megalithic structures were multifunctional symbols of belief, power, and knowledge. They embodied humanity's earliest efforts to understand the cosmos, honor the dead, and shape the landscape into lasting expressions of identity and spirituality.